If you believe that love, that intense, overwhelming feeling, is all you need for a happy, lasting marriage, you are probably doomed to failure. And today, I'm going to explain why this belief, so romantic and seductive, is one of the most dangerous for the health of your relationship. I know exactly what you might be feeling upon hearing this. Perhaps a slight discomfort, some resistance, because we've been taught by our entire culture, movies, songs, fairy tales, that love is the final answer, that it conquers all. And so you get married or commit deeply to that person who makes your heart race. That feeling is beautiful, addictive, divine. And then time passes, bills appear, the crushing routine, disagreements about how to raise the kids, how to spend free time, about each other's families, the feeling that you are being criticized, the discovery that your partner has habits that, frankly, deeply irritate you. And then arises that silent question accompanied by a dull ache in the chest. If I still love this person, why is this so hard? Why do I feel so alone sometimes inside my own home? You look at your partner sleeping beside you and feel a confusing mix. Genuine affection, yes, but also loneliness, frustration, weariness. And then comes the guilt. If I love him, her, I should be happy. If it's hard, has the love run out? You get stuck in this cycle of confusion, trying to rekindle a flame that seems to only respond with smoke. Do you feel seen? This is the silent loneliness of someone who has discovered that love feeling is wonderful fuel to start a journey, but a terrible guide to navigate it. The central truth, hard and liberating, is this. Love as a mere feeling is volatile, reactive, and conditional. It comes and goes with the wind of circumstances. What sustains a marriage for a lifetime is not the feeling of love, but the daily and courageous practice of loving. They are radically different things. The feeling is passive. It happens to you. The practice of loving is active. It is a choice, a series of behaviors, a stance towards the other, especially when you least feel like it. The great modern illusion is that marriage is an institution built on a feeling. In reality, a mature marriage is an alliance built on behavioral commitment and emotional maturity. Think of love feeling as the spark that starts the bonfire. It's essential, it's beautiful, but you don't keep a bonfire burning all night by just remembering the initial spark. You need dry wood, commitment. You need to give up other twigs to feed this fire, choices. You need to protect the flame from the wind, unresolved conflicts. And you often need to blow on the embers when everything seems like ashes, intentionality. The initial spark doesn't sustain anything. What sustains it is the constant, intelligent, dedicated work of keeping the fire going. The limiting belief we need to dismantle today is precisely this. If we love deeply, our marriage will be naturally happy and harmonious. Why is this belief so seductive? Because it takes away our responsibility. It places the blame for success or failure on a mystical external entity called love. If it worked, the love was true. If it failed, the love ran out or wasn't meant to be. This is extremely convenient and profoundly childish. It absolves us of the hard work, the need to grow, to look at our own flaws, to develop skills we don't have. And why is it dangerous? Because it leads couples to despair and premature giving up. When the inevitable conflicts, boredom, or wounds appear, the logical conclusion, according to this belief, is, since we are fighting and suffering, the love must have gone away. Therefore, this marriage is over. It's a formula for discarding relationships and for an endless, fruitless search for a feeling that never remains static. You abandon a real person with whom you've built a history in search of a new spark with someone else, only to find yourself years later in exactly the same place with the same problem. The spark is gone out again, and you haven't learned to keep the fire going. Let's look inside the cycle this belief creates. Let's call it the cycle of feeling as master. Act 1. Disillusionment. The initial intense fusion-like feeling inevitably diminishes. The neurochemistry of infatuation needs to normalize for the brain to survive. This is not failure, it's biology. But the couple, still clinging to the belief, interprets this normalization as a loss. He or she is not like before anymore. An anxious search begins to recover that state. Expensive dinners, trips, attempts to rekindle sexual passion at any cost. It works for a few hours, but the feeling of something missing always returns. Act 2, blame and attack. Frustrated by their inability to maintain the feeling, they start looking for someone to blame, and the most obvious culprit is the other. Enter what experts call criticism and complaints. You're not affectionate anymore. You've settled. You don't make me happy anymore. The partner, feeling attacked and inadequate, enters defense or withdrawal. They withdraw emotionally or retaliate. Here, the feeling of love is replaced by the feeling of threat, disappointment, and loneliness. Act 3, resignation or rupture. Many couples enter a state of peaceful but disconnected coexistence. They are roommates, partners in raising children. Love has turned into a functional obligation. The feeling is emptiness. Others, faced with this emptiness, make the final decision. The love is gone, and they leave. The tragedy is that both paths, silent resignation or loud rupture, are born from the same root, the wrong expectation that a feeling should carry the weight of a lifelong alliance. What is missing in this dynamic? The courage to step down from the throne of feeling and enter the ground of relational responsibility. So what do couples who sustain a marriage for life do differently? They swap the question, how do I feel love again, for the question, how do I act with love today? They build the house of the relationship on the rock of behavior, not on the shifting sand of emotion. Here are 5 practices that differentiate an emotionally mature couple from one trapped in the tyranny of feeling. 1. The practice of differentiation. David Schnark. What the immature does demands that the partner change so that they feel better. If you were more like this, I would love you more. Their self-esteem and well-being depend on the other's validation and behavior. What the mature does takes responsibility for their own emotional well-being, says, I'm upset about this and I need to understand what in me was triggered. I'm going to calm down so we can talk. They can remain emotionally stable even when their partner is unstable. It is this individual solidity that allows for true connection, not a sick fusion. 2. The practice of emotional conversation, not content discussion. Sue Johnson, John Gottman. What the immature does, fights about the dirty dishes, money, the kids, gets stuck in the specific content. It's a war of positions. What the mature does goes underneath the content to the emotion and the need for attachment. Instead of, you never help around the house, they practice, when I see the dishes piled up, I feel alone in the responsibility for the house, and I start to think I'm not important to you. I need to feel like we're a team. This is not about the dishes, it's about the fear of disconnection. Attacking the dishes generates defense. Talking about the fear of disconnection generates closeness. 3. The practice of repair. John Gottman. What the immature does lets conflicts fester, believes that if it were true love, we wouldn't need to apologize so much, uses silence as punishment. What the mature does knows that conflicts are inevitable, but cracks in the bond are optional. They master the art of repair. A look, a touch on the arm in the middle of an argument, and I'm sorry, I felt attacked and I attacked back. Repair is the antidote to resentment. It is the action of love when the feeling of love is absent. 4. The practice of erotic intentionality. Esther Perel. What the immature does waits for sexual desire to simply happen like it did in the beginning. When it doesn't, they blame the other or themselves, and intimacy becomes another chore or a territory of rejection. What the mature does understands that desire in a long-term relationship is not a gas that evaporates, but a fire that needs to be fed with space, mystery, and individuality. They seek their partner not just for release or comfort, but for adventure. They create moments of disconnection from the world, phones away, to reconnect. They know routine is the killer of eroticism and take conscious actions to break it. 5. The practice of radical acceptance of the other. Terry Real, Harville Hendrix. What the immature does tries, consciously or unconsciously, to remodel the partner in their own image, projects onto the other the idea of the perfect spouse. What the mature does performs the most courageous act of love, sees the partner in their entirety, with their flaws and childhood wounds, and decides to love this real person, not the projection they had created. This does not mean being a doormat or accepting abuse. It means stopping the fight against the reality of who the person is. From this acceptance, growth happens in an environment of safety, not criticism. If this content is making sense to you, if it's bringing clarity to dynamics you might be experiencing, you are not alone. Subscribe to the channel Victoria, Marriage for Life. Here, we don't sell romantic illusions. We talk about marriage with the depth, truth, and emotional maturity it requires to last a lifetime. And for those who, like me, see life through a lens of faith, this truth finds a deeply spiritual echo. The Bible in 1 Corinthians 13 does not define love as a feeling, but as a series of behaviors that are extremely difficult and courageous. Love is patient. Love is kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. It does not dishonor others. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. This is a description of actions, of daily choices. It is the image of Christ choosing to serve, wash feet, give his life. Agape love, covenant love, is a verb before it is a noun. Faith, when mature, does not exempt us from the emotional work of marriage. It gives us the foundation of an unshakable commitment and the grace to continue when our emotional strength runs out. It is understanding that marriage is also a mirror where God works on our character, our capacity to forgive, and our humility. It is not about finding the perfect person, but about loving a flawed person in a sacred way, just as we ourselves are flawed. So today, I invite you to grieve. Grieve the fantasy that love feeling would be enough. It is a necessary grief because only when we bury the fantasy can we build something real on the solid ground of truth. And the truth is liberating. You no longer need to despair when the feeling cools. You no longer need to think your marriage is doomed when passion gives way to patience, when euphoria gives way to built tenderness, when the spark gives way to the constant, reliable glow of the embers. Your marriage does not depend on the love you feel. It depends on the love you do. It depends on the small choices of each day, choosing to listen instead of preparing your defense, choosing to touch when you want to distance yourself, choosing to speak of your vulnerability instead of attacking the other's weak point, choosing to see the person behind the behavior that irritates you. That is sustaining a marriage. It is not a fairy tale. It is a daily work of art, made of courage, vulnerability, and repeated acts of love, especially and most importantly, on the days when you least feel like it. If this video spoke to you, if it touched a wound or brought relief by finally putting into words what you were experiencing, subscribe to the channel Victoria, Marriage for Life. Every video here is a tool for you to build a relationship that not only survives, but thrives with true intimacy. Share this video with your spouse or with that friend you know is silently struggling with this same pain, thinking their love isn't enough. And I really need you to tell me in the comments which part of this reflection touched you the most today. Was it identifying with the loneliness, the practice of repair, the idea of differentiation? Your story is important. Your voice is part of this community. Take care, and until the next video, where we will continue this journey of building marriages for life.